Hello, Wastelanders! My name is Kyle, and I will be your Overseer today for the very first installment of our Overseer Log series. The Overseer Logs are going to be introspectives with myself as the game master for our Fallout 2D20 tabletop game, thanks to the company Modifius, who brought the Fallout series to life in coordination with Bethesda. If you're someone that likes Dungeons & Dragons, GURPS, or other tabletop games, this is going to be very interesting to you. I mean, especially if you like Fallout. That's sort of the underpinning to this. This is my very first time DMing and bringing anything like this to the forefront, so it's going to be a brand new experience for me. And I apologize. These Overseer Log episodes are going to be a bit rambly. I do have myself a long bulleted list for today, but I just want to warn you that this is very off the cuff. It's very from my mind. You're going to literally see the files unpacking themselves and extracting themselves in my memory as we go through here. But the first section I want to tackle, I want to give everyone context. I want to talk about this project we're doing, Tales from Tomorrow. I want to talk about its connection to the Amazon Prime show, how that motivated us, as some personal details, the 76 player, and then I want to talk about some real-world parallels we're having. So we'll get to all that in just a minute, but I also want to tease that throughout this episode, I'll be talking about our game development timeline for this, talking about community aspects and ways you can get involved with playing tabletops with us, as well as some websites and social media links you can check out, Substack, Twitch, YouTube. I'll say all of those off the top. Discord as well. Substack, Twitch, YouTube, Discord. Those are the four platforms we are the most active on. Substack being the key, Twitch being the one we live stream it on, YouTube being the one we archive our videos on, and Discord, where you can come and chat and get involved with other players. So there'll be links to that below. Moving on from there, I want to do a recap of the campaign we're running. Just to keep it short at the top, I'll say we've set this campaign in the Fallout 76 timeline and in Appalachia. It's right in the backyard. It's north of the West Virginia lumber mill. If you know the Fallout 76 map, it was done because a lot of our players, especially myself, are in Fallout 76 daily or weekly, monthly, and that gives people familiarity with the zone, with the climate, the people, all of that. It just builds a base level so people aren't having to imagine something maybe too far-flung. And by that, I just want to emphasize that we are all new players here. I have never played in a D&D campaign before. I don't believe any of my players have either. So we are all totally fresh to this, and I've never GM'd a game before. So this is very, very new, very fun. And yeah, let's get into it. So we're calling this Tales from Tomorrow. It is a spin on the astoundingly awesome Tales magazine series that you can find in the Fallout series. Tales from Tomorrow is also a name that gives me a lot of room to tell more stories going forward, because I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. My comrades and I have already been playing this game for about 1 year, getting close to it, maybe 8 months. It's a totally new system, Modifius's 2D20. That means you're always rolling 2D20s. Pretty much for any skill check in the game. That'll be explained later in the Let's Plays. You can go check that out on YouTube if you want to get a background to it. There's some really great videos that walk you through it. So we're calling this Tales from Tomorrow. I am sort of giving this a specific campaign name, so it will be Tales from Tomorrow, Under the Mothman's Embrace, because one of our key players there is a Mothman cultist, without saying too much too early. This is a great time to get in and put this game to video format, to audio format, with Amazon Prime's Fallout TV show just absolutely bringing a breath of fresh air back into the franchise. It was already alive. Fallout 76 has been developed and ongoing for a while, but this really brought new eyeballs to the series, and I loved the show. I had such a great time watching the Fallout Amazon Prime series. I thought they really nailed the feel of it. You'll notice, and I think that's relevant to this conversation, when it comes to media, as long as something nails the feel of it and is not too egregious in breaking lore or just being sloppy as a studio set on camera, not leaving things in shot, whatever. I'm not very critical. As long as you're nailing the feel, I'm not very critical. Now, again, if your lighting is terrible and I can't see what's going on in the thing, that might be a whole other story. But aside from like insurmountable issues with production or just really bad storytelling, I'm a pretty likable guy for franchises like this. So you're not going to see me nitpicking like, well, this thing was out of frame and I didn't like that this wouldn't have been there. And that's relevant to the game we're playing because we are focusing on a narrative story over dense and obedient submission to the rules. I know some people out there are probably hardcore rule heads, people that just love to rule everything by the word of the book. That's not for me, and you're not going to get that from this series. So respectfully, I say that right up front so nobody has misunderstandings of what it is or what we're offering. This is the Modiphius 2D20 Fallout rule system with minor tweaks. And I will remind that just like Dungeons and Dragons, Modiphius also encourages people to use these rule sets as they will. In fact, I'll be honest, I really like the Modiphius rules, but if anyone out there from Modiphius is listening, the proofreading and spell checking in the book and all of that is pretty abysmal. It does not appear like they get a pass from an editor, and that can create some real problems where players at home need to homebrew solutions to textual typo errors in the book. So if you're wondering why we might homebrew something, it could be because it's just not explained, or it could be because the rules that were provided felt really clunky. There's all kinds of different things to that. But I just wanted to warn people up front. But ultimately, I just made this big spiel about how we're doing some homebrew. Largely, though, I think you'll find we play by the rules. I'm a guy who, in this first playthrough of the campaign, really wants to give players and myself a feel of what these rules can do. We are adding things over time as well. That should be noted, that because we're brand new, completely fresh players in GM, we are not trying to apply 100% of the rules on day one. In fact, we kind of talk about having a session zero. This is getting us into the timeline here, that we've had a session zero that sort of runs from March of 2024 until, January of 2025. We took this time because, having known nothing about tabletops aside from what we've watched on YouTube, this was just a brand new experience. We had to figure out what VTT we wanted to use, how we even roll the dice became the first question. That led us to using Alchemy as a VTT, a virtual tabletop. So if you're interested in knowing that, we are using Alchemy because of its integration with the Fallout 2D20 system from Modiphius. Really cool, works well, still could use a lot of improvement, but that was a part of it too. We had to learn, how do you even roll dice for a game like this while we're sitting on Discord being so distant? And the dice in this game are a bit unique. There's the combat die that has a Vault Boy head on it. It doesn't work just in the number 1 through 6. You have to take that to a translation table and see what those would be. Or you get their fancy dice that have the actual icon on it. Or you use a VTT that has the dice baked in. Without boring you about dice too much, I hope you understand it has been a year-long learning process. The players are feeling much more comfortable with it, and that is why we are now bringing it to Twitch. That it is 2025. It feels like a fresh time to start an endeavor like this. My passion for it has not been higher, but all last year was learning. And now that we have learned, now that we can take off our training wheels, we can actually start to go with some serious speed and energy and genuine enthusiasm. Instead of, I got to look that up all the time. Wait, hold on, let's check. It's a very different pacing now, and that's where it feels like it's ready to bring friends into the mix. And I'm really excited for that. I see how excited communities get across the internet when watching other people's Let's Plays, and that's just what I want to do. It's really where my heart and my passion is lately. So with that, you're going to see a bunch of new art popping up, sharing it to the Discord, sharing it to Substack, sharing it to YouTube and Twitch. Really cool stuff that I've been working on to keep it all thematic with this Tales from Tomorrow theme. The images you'll see on Instagram look very much like magazine covers, and I hope you love those. If you do, please do me the biggest favor in the world, which is to share it with your friends. Share it with people that you know that like this sort of stuff, or just share it out to your feeds and saturate them in general, like get them the content anyway. It'd be really helpful to me. So what else do we have here? Anything in this section? Plans to become more serious, kind of just mentioned that. That's great. Let's dive further into the community aspects. That's the natural segue there. So we want to build up a community of players, viewers, and maybe even other GMs out there. I'm really looking to meet people who might want to play a guest role in some of our episodes. I'm looking for people who might want to dungeon master or game master their own tabletop endeavors. I'd love to play as a player character in one instead of a DM. I do have these really fun ideas for one-shots that we could do for some community members. Like we could do non-recurring sort of all-in-one episodes where some people from the audience, from Twitch, from Discord, whatever, come together one day, one afternoon, and we record that and have some fun with it. Just something sort of spontaneous. Right now, if you're interested in learning anything more about that or finding all these links, I'm sending people to tftfallout.substack.com. I'll say that one more time. tftfallout.substack.com. TFT stands for Tales from Tomorrow. Fallout.substack.com. Very simple. You can find all those links I mentioned. I will post this episode and many more up there, and that's where we'll probably do some of the announcements for when games are going to be hosted. So definitely get yourself subscribed to the Substack. Discord is okay for announcements and things, but I'm really going to keep my focus on Substack. So if you want like the purest source of this information, where it's always updated, where it's emailing it directly to you, where the podcast is hosted as well, check out that Substack. It is free for you to access. There might be some bonus content coming to it eventually too. We'll just see how things go. Okay, moving into campaign details, because this might take a little bit of time. I am going to try my best now to get you an understanding of where our story is at this point. We played for 1 year and considered it a session 0. So where did they start? Where are they now? Warning, this will be the most rambly part of this episode because we're going to have to mentally unpack this. Let's dive right in off the top. We had our characters, specifically Sam, he's a military man, ex-military man. He served in Anchorage, and now he's finding his way in the wasteland. He's been wandering for quite some time, and he met up with Jim, a survivor from the pit. Jim and Sam, when they met up, were actually moving south from the pit, which took them into northern Appalachia. This is an area you can see on your Fallout map in the very top left. It is unincorporated territories to the game. This is, again, north of the West Virginia lumber mill. I have chosen to add in some roads there on a map, and I've plopped down some icons, which, again, you can find this over on Substack very easily. It's in one of our posts, and I'll, if I can remember, try to include it in this one for you as well. So they met up along this road. This was when they were very first figuring out how combat started. So we had them investigate just a generic farmhouse along the way. They fought some monsters, and they ran into Raven, who is playing with the tribal background because she is a Mothman cultist. Raven is one of our players who does not have a microphone. She's the only one that doesn't have a microphone in the group, and she uses a text-to-speech program that is explained away later that she has got like a sort of vocabulator from Robco, which can help her translate her text into audio format, just like any Protectron might do. No robots in our group, though. No player character robots in our group. Though they do run into one right after this house clear. They hear some lasers. They run out into the street in the middle of the night. They find a Protectron that's under attack by ghouls. This Protectron leads them in its damaged state. It tells them it needs to find a mechanic. It leads them to the town of Hope. Hope was previously called Hopewell in the pre-war era, and it wasn't a huge town. It was one of those towns that has enough people to sustain itself. It has multiple streets worth, but it's off the beaten path, so not a lot of people were traveling there. Now, it is a potentially very exciting gathering spot from people from the pit. So when people are traveling south from the pit to Appalachia, just like the settlers at Foundation did, when people are moving south from the pit, they can hopefully soon stop over at Hope. This is what gets them into later treating this place like a settlement, that they have the ability, the players, to invest in this town. But what do they find when they get there? So the Protectron walks them in, and the first thing the players see are kind of smoldering barricades, some fires in the background, damage, laser scorches on the streets and on some of the buildings. They find out that the town had come under heavy attack by Mirelurks the night before. And I can't remember at this stage, but I think we had said that there had been some other Mirelurk threats that had been happening. Basically to say this was an escalating crisis. And my players got into this situation around, let's say, summer of 2024. So it's been over 6 months easily since this started. When they got into town, they found a couple useful NPCs and another player character. The NPCs they came up with to meet were Tom Clifton. He is the town's robot repairman. He's a little bit of everything. He has a tech shop. He repairs robots. He's sort of the go-to guy in town. He's sort of become the de facto leader. This town itself, as the players will learn, is not very solidified. That the town is going through a stage of people leaving when instead they really want to be growing. Mirelurk attacks have a lot to do with that. That'll scare your family away real quick. So they meet Tom Clifton, who kind of gives them all this information, and he directs them to meet up with a person named Hell's Bells, who is overseeing the defense of the town. The town's actually building new barricades when they had arrived. So Hell's Bells, she was a militiaman character, and unfortunately we've lost contact with this internet friend. Haven't heard from her in quite a long time. So at this stage, the character's in my sort of public use sort of deal, and it's playing a plot right here now in, January of 2025. We'll get to that, though, as time goes on. Helping Hell's Bells, they fend off an attack from Mirelurks. This gets the players even more combat experience. From there, that was kind of a big showdown, actually. It was at night. The Mirelurks broke through part of the barricade. They were able to take down as many as they needed to. The town was saved, and the town actually got a lot of Mirelurk meat from it. So at the one canteen in town, they were eating well. People were having Mirelurk cakes and all kinds of good food. Skipping a little bit to the next day, they began investigating buildings. They began finding some of the lore of the town. They helped one of the mechanics, a friend of Tom's. Her name is Lena. They helped Lena get into the police station there and reprogram 3 police protectrons to now be town protectrons. That they're not police officers. They're just defending the town against any threats. And that is really cool to see how the player's exploration has turned out to help the town. It's built it up, and that's just great. I love that stuff. Moving on from there, they decided to explore some houses outside of town. That led to a little bit of an issue where Raven got exposed to a necrotizing fungus. That almost wound up really bad for her. She started hallucinating, Sam as well. There was some running through the streets where they thought they were going to infect the town with this fungi. Time will tell if that's the case. But they were safe. That was a doozy. Raven wound up thinking she was being abducted by aliens at one point. Woo! Moving further, they go into another house and meet a Mr. Handy unit. This is sort of in the not Main Street. These are a couple blocks away from Main Street. That they find a single occupancy dwelling, and it has a Mr. Handy up there. They eventually named this Mr. Handy Alfred. Alfred was sort of stuck up there rearranging magazines for all of eternity. Sort of fun how this show has wound up adopting that name. It was unintentional, but Alfred had sat there sort of reorganizing his master's comic book collection to the point that they had begun falling apart. He couldn't really see his chronology, and all that was way off. He didn't know what time it was or where, just the decay we've seen from many robots who are left in isolation for long periods. But Alfred has been a great cohort member. He's just followed them along and been really wonderful. This gets us to the next one of the most pressing parts of the journey. I'm leaving a little bit of town lore out. There's some extra things they found in buildings, a little bit of tale of vault-tec being there, some quack doctors in the town doing some weird stuff. But the big mission they're tasked with is going to a radio antenna and reconnecting the town of Hope to the large settlement of Foundation in southern Appalachia. If you look at these two places drawn, shown where they are on our map, you can kind of see that there's that mountain range in between. And the implication for the story has been that I guess the main implication has been that Foundation and Hope cannot connect with one another. They're too distant. Hope doesn't have a big transponder or receiver there. And so they've tasked the players to go to this radio antenna and set it up, get it online, figure out what's wrong with it, and get connection back. That the mountains who are blocking the signal will now be a thing of the past. So they set off. Actually, it took them a little bit of time to set off. That's when the fungus happened. That's when they got sick. That's an important note. Let me correct that. So they were tasked with this mission to leave before they got the infection of the fungi, necrotizing sort of thing. That leads to Hell's Bells and another crew of soldiers being dispatched early because the town thinks, well, hey, our new wanderers here who are going to help us, they're already laid up with their own illness. So let's get our people out there and get this work started. Hell's Bells and them dispatch and go. The players decide about a day or two later that they're going to follow. They take Lena and they take Mr. Handy with them, Mr. Handy, and they go. Along the way, they run into some raiders. These are free radical raiders. So that means these are the ex-cons who are a lot more amicable than other raiders. These are people who are left in the prisons. And so we know about prisons under capitalism. They're not locking up the correct people. And I think in my mind, it seems to be a reason why the free radicals are a very amenable type of raider. They're not trying to eat you. They're not trying to do anything like that. And they're quite easy to communicate with. So they are able to pass some speech checks, get past these raiders, no problem. They do learn that the raiders had been attacked the night before by Mothman cultists. It kind of sets up this narrative arc under the Mothman's embrace, that the Mothman are becoming much stronger. And it actually kidnapped or killed one of the raiders in power armor. So the Mothman cultists weren't playing around. They were able to, hit and run and take. So moving on from there, they make their way further down the road. They run into a vault dweller named Amelia. She's looking for them to help her with some issue in the vault. She decides to go along with this crowd. They make their way further down the road, run into Rusty Bones' farm. Rusty Bones, a fun character. He is a ghoul trader. He's doing a kind of caravan expansion in the area, or at least he's a caravaner in this northern area. So he's excited to get Hope on his list of places to trade with. His growth is related to the Blue Ridge Caravan Company expanding out in the region as well. Trade has come to Appalachia, and we are hoping, I'm hoping, that my players might imbibe on that and take up some offers there. So Rusty Bones gave them some quests to do. He had said that he was under attack. Something had eaten some of his Brahmin. They thought they had figured that out. They went and they fought some feral, mongrel dog, wolf things that had really gotten irradiated and mutated and became much bigger and fiercer. Fought those. Then they go off to the radio tower looking for a way to re-enable that. They get up there. They get in after a fight with some turrets outside. You can see this place was maintained by the military pre-war. And once they get inside, they begin to link up Alfred to the system. That was kind of part of the quest, is that Alfred needed to communicate with the radio tower, that he would be able to set this up. He was kind of pre-programmed. Think very much like R2-D2 in Star Wars, if you will. Very much that sort of effect, where you plug him in and Alfred was doing the work on the computer. In that meantime, Jim got separated from the group and found that once the radio had reactivated, an artificial intelligence named Modus had begun speaking to them. Modus had no problem taking over Alfred's body. He had one of those awkward experiences of Modus doesn't seem to care about other people's free will or agency. He just does what he needs to do whenever. And he called them all frames, like robotic frames. He referred to the humans. He's like, well, you're in frames too. Like, you're just a spirit inhabiting a frame, blah, blah, blah. It's a very interesting encounter that they had with him. Moving forward from that, though, they were able to get the signal connected. There's a bit of a looming threat that Modus kind of controls the antenna still. They have decided to sort of co-defend that structure now that people probably know the antenna's online, and also they had to break a hole in the wall to get into it, so this bunker is now breached. Now they're wanting to get defenses up there. So whether Foundation or Hope sends troops, those troops will be sitting basically face to face with Modus, that he occupies some part of that station, sort of some underground level to it, but largely that the players are going to see some friction, I will presume, with the Modus AI and the ambitions of the settlers throughout the region. We'll see what Modus's ambitions are over time. one thing of great importance that they had found along the way to the radio tower, and now makes its real focus here, is they had come across some bodies and evidence of... Actually, I'm sorry, I don't think they ever found a body. They came across evidence of Hell's Bells group, that Hell's Bells team had been attacked, and I think there was a note saying that they had some of their people go missing, that they were looking for them, but all that our players were able to find is sort of a recently cooled campfire with that note nearby, which led them to feel like the woods around were very strange. There was a lack of sound there. This is somewhere near the radio antenna, about 2 hours from it, I think. That they had come across this weird vibe. They decide that they're not going to investigate it further at this time after having a fight at the radio tower. They decide they're going to go back to Rusty Dusty Bones. They get to his farm. They rest up. They take care of themselves. And then they go back out on their investigation to find Hell's Bells. This is what catches us up to present. You can find this episode right now up on YouTube. It's up on the Substack. You can go listen to this yourself. Just to keep it brief for that episode without too many spoilers or anything, it's to say they go back out into the woods. They're trying to find this location wherever Hell's Bells and them had been. They had no idea where. And through some ingenious means, they were able to get to the location they needed. And they thought that they were only fighting ghouls, but they found a Wendigo. And now they are in the process of fighting. I say right now because it is happening now. It is the next week's episode. That should catch you up. I am certain I left some things out of it. Thank you for bearing with me for like a 10, 15-minute ramble about the show. I consider all of that to be our session 0 of sorts. The real session 1 or season 1, whatever we're calling this, is kicking off approximately at the time that they're returning to Hope. That's sort of where I'm hoping this... hoping. It's where I'm intending for this to take shape. So we're going to have the players introduce their characters next week. We're going to have a little bit more time for that, an explanation of who's who. I am so excited to have you on this journey. Right now, I need to go get a drink. You can hear I'm like running out of steam all of a sudden after that. My brain just did the largest brain dump and now wants to take a break. I'm so excited, though. It has been so much fun to work on these images and concepts for the game. I'm so totally excited to have you all involved with it. Please feel free to reach out on Discord. This is also a great spot for me to put in expectations of how we all interact with each other. That is, we all meaning me, the GM, us, the players, and you all, the audience members. What I want to call out first and foremost is that feedback and advice is welcome. That being said, please respect if it doesn't get put into the show, because you can tell at this point I've already got concepts and ideas. I am a very reactive game master. I love to switch up my own plots last second based on how players interact. So sharing things with me very well might get it into the show. Adding to my cumulative knowledge can be super helpful. That being said, though, I do want to temper expectations that if you give me a great plot point or you tell me a correction or something like that, you may never see it in the show because of how we're running it. Mention it way off the top that we are focused on narrative storytelling over pure submission to the rules. I am a lore purist, so I'm never going to try to break Fallout lore, but I am a bit of a novice to Fallout lore. I watch a lot of the videos on YouTube. I really do. I try to do everything in step with the game. However, you might find that I don't know something along the way. Please cut me some slack. It is a fun franchise, and that's the only reason I'm in it is because it's fun, and it's nerdy and just awesome to be a part of the community. So that's why I'm just saying right up front, this doesn't apply to most people out there. But, you know, just to set expectation that it is it's going to be a push-pull sort of thing where your feedback is welcome, but it might not all go into the show. But please do feel free to leave that feedback, because it very well might. It very well might. It might go into this show. It might go into the next one. It might go into something else we wind up doing as a project. So don't be shy about talking like that. Also, as a big audio video nerd, If there's ever audio or video issues with the stream or other content that's produced, please feel free to let me know. I will be happy to do my best to troubleshoot those. I'm a guy that does not love to sit and listen to a 3-hour audio recording all back. And I guess that's the trick. I'll leave you with this last note for the very first episode, is that I was fixing up some audio. Please forgive me that the audio is just a little bit crunchy at times for the very first episode, or this is episode 0, Descent into the Wendigo's Grotto. I needed to fix some stuff for my player's audio and my own. It's going to sound better next week. I think that's it, though. That's all for now. I will say, I guess I should leave you with this. What is going to be the release schedule at this time? So Sunday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, we get into a call on Discord and we start streaming that. That is our pre-show. 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays, the show kicks off. So that's on Twitch, twitch.tv/Kyle the Communist. That is the name up there for now. I don't know if I'll make a channel for it based on this game in particular, but the Substack, the YouTube, and all the rest, the Discord, are all directly for this Fallout show. So if you're a fan of other things I do, political conversations and talks and Substacks, this stuff is just different. Make sure you subscribe to it. So Sunday nights, that is our recording time live. Come join us in the audience. That means over the next couple days, I will get art assets ready. I will get blog posts ready. We should probably expect these episodes to go live on Wednesdays, I think is probably a reasonable expectation for that. Let's say Wednesdays is the day I will try to get things posted to YouTube and all the rest. That gives people some time in their week to absorb that and still be able to catch up with the live show on Sunday. So live show Sunday, episode comes out on Wednesday, and I'm thinking I'm going to try to put out some like overseer logs or character deep dives, some conversations with my crew. We'll probably try and put some podcasts like that out on Fridays. This is a big ambitious sort of project, but as we've been very interested in it for the last year, and as I've been adding more and more time to it, I'm really excited. This is a fun departure from me just talking politics all the time on Twitch, and yet it lets me still stay in this exact space of capitalist hellscape, right? This is us experiencing just what our lives will be like in a few years. Of course, the radiation doesn't work the same, and the monsters are probably not going to be there, and all the rest, but the rest of Fallout shapes up very well with the real world right now. We are a country dominated by oligarchs and companies who have no adherence to the laws, who regularly do things like vault-tec, which is to create big scares, artificial scares, to funnel money from the government into coffers of the rich, who have no intention of ever helping us, the poor working class. So that is a wonderful hotbed of stories to tell, and I'm so excited to do it. I hope we will have you every step along the way. So again, thank you a million times over for listening to this episode. I am super excited to introduce you to these characters that go forward. Don't hesitate to leave comments or share this with friends. I will once again redirect you to the Substack, the Twitch, the YouTube, and the Discord for all of this great content. Wastelanders, I hope you will stay very safe out there in the wasteland.